And that might involve some kind of sacrifice too, where you have two children going to two different schools, and
Right,
unfortunately it's like, okay, drop off might be a little crazy in the morning or something like that, but
right,
if you're making sure that each child has the education that's going to be helping best form them as a person,
right,
you're really doing, and that's not always an option, but like doing the best
right.
you can
And
in that
financially, it's
situation.
difficult. That's
Yeah,
what
exactly.
there's many parents that are going to be listening, are not in the ability to homeschool. They don't
Hmm.
have the ability to be part of a co-op or
Hmm.
even part of a Catholic school system,
Hmm.
much less a classical academy because it can be very expensive.
So how should they incorporate these kind of ideas we're talking about if they can't necessarily afford to send
Right.
their children to that?
So I would approach this from two points. One, I think that the challenge would be out there. First of all, to our Catholic systems, and
Hmm.
that is we need to really pause and revisit what is the purpose of Catholic education.
Well, Dr. Pat Fagan was actually talking on our podcast when he was on about how school vouchers is like something a government could really do to help. So, and it just kind of goes to the same thing of
Agree.
like allowing parents to have that flexibility. So,
Exactly. I
anyway,
agree.
yeah.
And I agree with that. And I think it's just that, but also from the Catholic Church perspective, I mean, we don't have time to go through the history of Catholic education. And of course, in many generations, we were very blessed because the religious communities recognized their vocations and lived out those vocations in
Hmm.
education, sacrificing, so much to be educators, and so those now have become less and less. And as a result, you know, many things have influenced our approach toward Catholic education, and it's got to be very expensive. And so
Yeah.
many parents are not as fortunate to be able to place their child or children in a Catholic system, and to be assisted in the formation of their child or children. And and the reason why I start with that is because I really would like to call upon those who make these kinds of decisions. We need to look at ways of bringing costs down, opening the doors more to more families to be able to have access to good, solid Catholic classical education and not make it where it's only for a certain segment that it can afford it.
Hmm.
So, with that said, let's return to your question. So,
Yeah.
let's say I don't have that ability. My if I were married, my wife and I are not capable of affording a Catholic education or a private education,
Hmm.
in a homeschool environment either. So, what do we do in a public system? Well, here again, it's going to take a lot more responsibility because the parent now has to take the lead,
Hmm.
always has the lead, but here really has to take the lead because I don't encourage it at all.
Hmm.
Actually, if you could remove your children from the public system, I'm an advocate for doing so. Right now, the way the system is and the way of this affirming environment that they're in, it's a dangerous place for children, very dangerous. At the same time, many don't have the ability to do what I'm saying.
Hmm.
So, what do we do? First of all, the church needs to help parents who are in those kinds of situations.
Hmm.
Help them to help their children. Two is parents need to be on guard a bit, with their children. As I said earlier, what they're reading, what they're hearing, who's influencing them, what are they saying in the classroom, what materials are they getting. Take ownership of it and fight the good fight. Get into the system. Not to my child, you're not doing that, and it's going to take up. And we see that's the battleground right
Hmm.
now.
It seems like they could also add supplemental things into that as well, instead of just being like, oh, now I know what my child's reading, being like, okay, let's read this good book.
Right.
Let's read this, like
Correct.
introducing these ideas and talking, like helping them age appropriately learn about things like philosophy and literature and history in a way that
Correct.
they might not be getting in the public school system as well.
Agreed. And again, we're back to the parent
Yeah.
taking that leadership role, that modeling, and it's not easy because let's be honest, the child or the student is in school for 6, 7, 8 hours a day,
Yeah.
and parents home working or working outside the home. They come home and they only have that little short window. So who's really having the greater influence?
Yeah.
So you're right, Colleen, that yes, that is what needs to
Hmm.
happen. But in many cases, what happens is that doesn't happen, and so that's why if I could encourage more parents to look at other ways of so for example, I know that in many dioceses, my own diocese as well, back in Louisiana, I just learned of a new academy, Trinity Academy,
Hmm.
that was just opened. Very small group of students for the first year, but that's okay. That's how things build.
Hmm.
But I know the people who founded the school. I remember them when they were in school, and so and
Did you
so
work in a school then?
my last parish was with school. My first assignments with schools
Okay.
teaching.
So
Oh,
you've had
yeah.
a lot of experience in
Yeah,
this kind of
I
field.
love it. I mean, education to me is vital. That's why I guess I'm here in this apostolate, which is based in education. But it's to me, I like the way that you approached it. Let's not look at the negative. Sometimes in talking about the things that we're dealing with, we can say, okay, we're reacting to.
Mhm.
And yes, that's true. But let's look at the positive, and that is, let's return back to what is my role as a parent.
Mhm.
When husband or wife, when they married each other and they said, we marry each other and we're open to the gift of life. So part of that is the formation, education of their children, as we
Mhm.
mentioned earlier. So that means I need to put that forefront in our responsibility. So we need to be thinking of how are we going to do that, and that's what I mean by the church coming in,
Mhm.
because to our catechesis, so our CCD, our programs, our
Yeah.
Catholic school programs. How are we helping parents form their children